الحمد لله ونحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الرحمن علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان صدق الله العظيم. My respected brothers and sisters in Islam, the Quran is the book of Allah, and these words of Allah are so great, and such is the greatness of the Quran itself. And it's the most virtuous and the words of the most greatness in the whole universe. And why would it not be? These are the words of the great. So, as a result, these words would be also great. For example, the words of the king are precious, more valuable, and these are the words of the kings of the king. So why would they not be great? So the words of Allah are the greatest, and they are more virtuous than anything else. And this Quran has been revealed on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a miracle. And there was no one who can come up with such a Quran. And in the time when the kuffar and mushrikeen were propagating against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to say that these are not the words of Allah. These have been written by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. But then the Quran challenged them that if these are not the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you yourself are so literary in Quran. You are very literary in Arabic language. You are very well versed in Arabic language. Then how come you cannot come with such words as Quran? So Quran challenged them that if you want to defeat Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or if you want to say that this religion of Islam is not the right religion, it's not the true religion, it's a false religion, then you don't have to fight Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't have to argue him. You don't have to propagate false things against him. All you have to do is come up with a Quran like this. Quran said that if you are true that these are not the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then make a Quran like this. Because if you can prove that these are not the words of Allah, the whole religion is going to go down. The only thing that holds up this religion is that we have Quran, and Quran are the words of Allah. And they are the most true words. So if you want to put down this religion, you don't have to fight, you don't have to struggle, you don't have to give any kinds of hard times to the Sahaba, you don't have to cause any distress, you don't have to propagate anything negative. All you have to do is just bring a Quran like this. And you know this Quran is so big. It was really hard for them to bring up a whole Quran like this. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, okay, if you cannot bring up the whole Quran like this, just bring 10 surahs like this. Bring any 10 surahs, make up 10 surahs similar to the surahs of Quran, and still we would say that you have been succeeded in the challenge. But even with their being so much literary in Arabic language and being so well versed in Arabic language, they were not able to do this. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even reduced this challenge by saying, if you cannot bring up 10 surahs like this, just get one surah like this. Still the challenge of Quran holds, and they were not able to bring any one surah like this. Then in the end Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reduced it to the very minimum and said, فَلْيَأْتُوا بِحَدِيثٍ مِثْلِهِ. If you cannot bring the whole Quran, that's okay. If you cannot bring the 10 surahs, that's still acceptable. How about you bring one surah? And you cannot even bring one surah, at least get one ayah like the ayah of Quran, and still we would say that you have won the challenge. As a result, so many people in that time who was very literary and they were famous for their literature in Arabic, they came forward and they were all forced to say that these are the words of Quran. In their hearts they were so forced to accept that these are the words of Quran, and this challenge could not be defeated. And there was famous people like Ibn Muraqqab. There's some words that come in the Revelations. They say, some narrations, they say that there was this guy, Ibn Muraqqab, and he was very literary and very well versed in saying the poetry. He said, I can accept the challenge, but I want you to provide for me for 2 years. Provide me for 2 years with the food and the place to live, and I'll come up with a Quran, with one ayah like this. So all the Arabs of Kufar and Mushrikeen, they got happy. They said, okay, there's someone who can help us out. They said, okay, we will provide you with your food and any kinds of sustenance or whatever you need. And whatever you need, but all you have to do is come up with at least one ayah like this. So he went to a cave and he was given papers and he was given ink or whatever he asked for, he was given. So he stayed there for about 6 months. And after 6 months, these people said, okay, let's go and visit him and see how much he has progressed. When they went to the cave, they saw him sitting, and on his back, behind his seat, there was a lot of papers. And they asked him, how much have you progressed? We have spent 6 months already here. So how much have you progressed? Have you come up with an ayah like the ayah of Quran? Have you made any thoughts? And he said, this is all I have done. I have written thousands of sentences. And when I write a sentence, I compare it one sentence with one ayah of Quran, and I think that it's not equal, then I throw it back in the garbage. And then again I have written thousands of sentences and they are on the paper, but none of them match the literature of Quran itself. So, and he said, I have spent 6 months. And I can spend 1.5 more years to complete my 2 years, but I strongly think I will not be able to succeed. So he gave up. And even in that, and I'm telling you the stories of a time when the literature was on its peak. That time, literature was so much on the peak, even a 9-year-old girl could say the poetry of 90 lines right away. She didn't have to think so much. That was the time. That time people used to challenge each other with their words. Somebody used to write a poetry and they used to challenge that somebody who can answer this. And by the next morning, somebody would have the answer and they would have broken the challenge. But Quran was such a challenge on them, was so heavy on them, that they could never, up until today's date, no one can break this challenge. No one can bring even an ayah like ayah of Quran. And as a result, at that time there was this person, in the narrations his name comes as Farzda. He got so ashamed of himself that he said, I won't even live in the city no more. He left the city and started living in a cave, and because he said, I'm so ashamed of myself that I cannot accept this challenge of Quran and I cannot answer this. This is so literary and I cannot answer this. So he even left the city. So his students said, oh, you are our teacher, but we want to benefit from you. We want to learn to write poetry and we want to benefit in this line from you, in this area. So what are we supposed to do?